Amazing twist. Mechanic discovered true love at the wrong table. Unveiling CEO's paralyzed daughter. Jack shifted nervously in his grease-stained overalls, silently cursing the night he'd stumbled into this gala of polished suits and extravagant dangling chandeliers. Nerves prickled along his skin as the distant echo of laughter washed over him, and a voice whispered the same question that haunted him: how did he get here? The names of the guests meant little to him, their laughter resonating like a foreign language. All the while, the gnawing worry about his mounting debt loomed. He felt like just another cog in the wheel of life, grinding endlessly but achieving nothing, as frustration flooded through his veins like adrenaline. The gentle scent of motor oil clung to him, an emblem of his reality, while around him, elegance overflowed. His heart raced. The night could not escape the weight pressing down on him. He wanted a breakthrough, a light at the end of a dim, faded tunnel, but instead it was drowned by expectations from his father, from his town, and the ceiling of obligations that snared him daily. Jack tightened his grip on the glass in his hand. Each sip felt like a futile attempt to wash away his troubles, but the taste of cheap wine only stirred a bitter reminder of disappointments relayed through the years of his father's harsh words echoing in his mind. What if he never escaped this suffocating cycle? Before he could spiral deeper into his thoughts, an undeniable connection snagged his attention, a captivating gaze from across the table. There she was, Sarah, the CEO's daughter, poised in her wheelchair. But what struck him most was not the chair that confined her, it was the spirit that soared within her gaze. They exchanged timid smiles, the kind that invited a spark, a shared understanding of struggles written in the lines of their faces. As the night danced around them, Jack found himself laughing through the constraints of his fears, unveiling shared stories of ambition tangled with sorrow. There was something restorative in their connection that tugged at him. Before long, the vulnerability of his truth spilled out, exposing the wounds carved by long-held disappointments. Just as hope crackled to life, a secret surfaced, a tragic accident from his past that had entwined their stories in unimaginable ways. As it resonated in his mind, Jack's heart sank into despair. The guilt for her accident, the sting of his father's disapproval, the precious dreams he buried under the weight of responsibility, they all surfaced like jagged stones. The thought twisted around his heart like a vice, and with each painful memory, a wave of self-doubt crashed over him, leaving him breathless. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The growing tension twisted in his stomach like a coiled spring. Would he have the strength to confront his father, the man whose disappointment haunted him daily? The conflict within Jack rumbled dangerously, the warmth fading from his connection with Sarah as he teetered on the edge of his familial loyalty and burgeoning love. The stakes felt impossibly high. He took a breath, but it felt like a choke. The familiar scent of grease that normally comforted him now felt suffocating as his thoughts spiraled into chaos. Could he truly unfold the layers of the past and embrace this unexpected affection, or would he retreat into the dark corners of regret and duty? As he met her eyes again, all questions lay heavy between them. The warmth of their connection now tinged with uncertainty and a painful past that yawned wide. Every second felt stretched across the canvas of doubt, and as the music swelled softly, Jack faced a decision that would ripple through the very fabric of his life, leaving him caught in the storm of his own making. Would he risk it all, push past his fears of familial loyalty, and fight for a future with Sarah, or would he shrink back, shackled by the past that threatened to engulf him whole? Jack stood at the precipice of decisions, the weight of years pressing down heavier than the grease on his overalls. He felt adrift yet rooted. The world around him spun with a dizzying speed while he remained frozen, caught between the alluring spark with Sarah and the suffocating expectations of family. Each heartbeat felt louder than the last as he weighed his choices, the sound echoing in his ears like a countdown to inevitable confrontation. That he glanced at Sarah, her smile still lingering from their previous conversation, a counterpoint to the shadows reeling in his mind. Beneath the layers of guilt, a burgeoning realization flickered. Perhaps he had the power to rewrite his narrative. That thought ignited a flicker of defiance. For too long, He'd been a shadow in his father's eyes, trapped in a role that defined him solely by his failures and the weight of familial expectations. But here, sitting across from Sarah, was a chance to mold his identity anew, to confront not just his past but to illuminate a future away from the oppressive grasp of guilt. But what lay beyond this moment? Could he truly step outside the contours of the life meticulously imposed on him? The few minutes spent locked in Sarah's gaze felt like a lifetime, each second a drop of clarity piercing through his internal storm. He found himself wondering about her journey, the adversities she faced that shaped her fire and how hers mirrored his own struggles in a way that forged a tangible bond. Jack clenched his fists, feeling the coarse fabric of his overalls dig into his skin, a constant reminder of where he came from. This was the fabric of his life, rough but familiar. Yet a part of him searched for something softer, something that represented hope, abundance, and a future he could shape for himself, perhaps alongside Sarah. The notion frightened him. He was no stranger to disappointment and failure. Murmurs of doubt whispered in the back of his mind. What if he wasn't good enough for someone like her? He shifted in place, the chairs squeaking faintly in the bubbling laughter of the gala around them. As he fumbled with his glass, he realized it was time to question the patterns that had defined his life. The excuses, the fears, the overriding need to adhere to the expectations laid upon him, the culmination of them felt like shackles. Were they truly his, or had he inherited them from the silent, watchful gaze of his father? Suddenly, like a burst of sunlight cutting through storm clouds, an idea emerged. What if he faced his father, armed with the new knowledge of self-worth? What if he dared to articulate his own dreams, his desires, instead of merely existing as an extension of someone else's ambitions? He felt a surge of energy rush through him, igniting a passion ignited by the realization that he was more than just a mechanic bound to his father's choices. He was a man, capable of creating his own legacy. As if sensing his shift in energy, Sarah's eyes sparkled with a knowing light, and for the briefest moment, he could see a future they could share, one unclouded by guilt or obligation. The prospect filled him with a heady mix of hope and fear, and in that moment, he resolved to carve a path that intersected with hers, refusing to back down in the face of familial duty. But just as his resolve solidified, the soft murmur of the gala faded to a hush. Instinctually, he turned to see a shadowy figure make its way through the guests, his heart sinking as recognition seeped in. His father approached, a storm etched onto his weathered face, searching the room with a keen eye that settled ominously on Jack. The moment had arrived. Would he summon the courage to voice his truth amidst the imposing presence of his father, or would he falter under the weight of generations of expectation? The question hung in the air like a silent challenge, electrifying and terrifying. Jack braced himself. He was about to step into the storm. Jack's heart raced, each beat echoing in the pit of his stomach. The air shifted, the warmth of Sarah's presence receding as his father drew closer, like a dark cloud engulfing the sun. He could feel the shadows of his father's disappointment looming larger than life. This was not just a confrontation, this was the ultimate test of his resolve. He forced himself to take a deep breath, gripping the stair railing at his side to steady himself. He needed to remember who he was becoming, not just the man crafted from the expectations that surrounded him. His thoughts darted wildly, recalling the moments he had spent with Sarah, the laughter, the connection, the feeling of potential that bloomed like wildflowers in the cracks of concrete. She had pulled him from his cocoon, revealing glimpses of a world beyond the one his father wanted for him. Jack, his father's voice boomed as he neared, breaking through his fleeting thoughts. The authority packed into that single word sent shivers down his spine. Jack turned slowly, forcing himself to meet the intense gaze of his father. The man was a titan of industry, a figure of strength and determination, but to Jack, he had often embodied the harshness of heavy expectations and unyielding judgments. This moment was about more than just conversation, it was an excavation of his own truth. "Do you really think this is what you should be doing?" His father's eyes narrowed as he surveyed the gala. "Surrounded by these people? You're better than this, Jack." The insidious hint of disdain in his voice stung, igniting old wounds. Jack felt the instinct to retreat, but something astonishing held him steady. This was not about the gala. It was never about the people. It was about who he wished to be, about the choices that lay ahead, the choices he had the power to forge and redefine. "Dad," Jack started, his voice steadier than he felt. "I need to talk to you." He could see the flicker of surprise in his father's eyes, rippling through the wall of expectations that had long stood between them. Talk. His father's brow furrowed. About what? About who I am. What I want. The words were simple yet heavy. He could sense the tremor in his hands. He wasn't just voicing desires, he was flipping the script of his life, his father scoffed. What you want? Jack, since when does that matter? It was a challenge, and Jack felt the heat rise in his cheeks, but he pressed on. It matters now, Dad. I've been living your dreams for too long. It's time to explore mine. A palpable silence enveloped them, the hum of the gala fading into the background. Jack searched his father's face for a glimpse of understanding, and instead found a tightness around his mouth, a mask of frustration and confusion. What could you possibly know about the business world? It's not a game. Jack's composure cracked, revealing the urgency simmering just beneath the surface. It's not just about business, it's who I want to be. The palpable tension danced between them, thick enough to slice with a knife. Jack could sense that the crowd had turned their attention, watching the clash as though it were a prize fight. Yet he found himself caring less about their scrutiny and more about the honesty he felt radiating from within. He was not just a mechanic, not just a boy in overalls, he was a man willing to claim his identity. Suddenly, something shifted in his father's expression, something that resembled recognition, or perhaps a flicker of doubt. Jack seized it. I refuse to be defined simply by my failures or by your ambitions. I can be more. More? His father's tone dripped with skepticism. What do you know about the real world, about responsibility? A nerve pulsed in Jack's temple, and he fought to keep his voice even. Maybe I know more than you think. Maybe I'm ready to take a step on my own rather than just following your path. Yet as the words spilled from his lips, the room seemed to fade, and Jack's certainty wavered. Had he gone too far? Was it too late to take it back? The air crackled with tension, and Jack braced himself for the onslaught of a lifetime's worth of expectations crashing into this fragile moment of newfound purpose. The future he envisioned slipped momentarily out of reach, the reflection of his father's disappointment darker than ever. But just as he prepared for the inevitable battle, a whisper behind him caught his attention, a beckoning from Sarah. Her eyes held a mix of encouragement and concern, a reminder of what lay beyond this moment. Jack, she called softly. He turned slightly, finding a flicker of comfort in her presence, which propelled him onward. But what would come next, an embrace of acceptance or the bitter sting of rejection? With resolve tightening in his chest, Jack knew this confrontation was a defining moment. Would it build bridges or further divide them? There was no turning back now. The reckoning was here, and in the whirlpool of emotion, he felt his own reflection demanding to be recognized. As the silence reached a tipping point, Jack stepped forward into the storm, ready to fight for his own voice. But what awaited him on the other side? Jack's heartbeat thundered in his ears, electricity coursing through his veins as he stood facing the man who had dominated his ambitions for far too long. The room around him spun with whispers, uncertain glances, and the unrelenting pressure to conform. Yet, as he closed his eyes momentarily, the atmosphere transformed, and he could hear only the sound of his own resolve echoing through his thoughts. They were at a crossroads, father and son, each representing diverging dreams and expectations. Jack took a step forward, the distance between them shrinking, fueled by a newfound courage. The years of being the dutiful son compressed into this moment, and all of Jack's suppressed desires surged to the forefront. I want to build something of my own, he asserted, his voice cracking but steady. Something that's authentically mine. Not just a cog in your empire. His father's expression hardened, but Jack pressed on, aware that the real battle extended beyond this physical confrontation. It was internal. It was about relinquishing the weight of another's dreams to embrace his own. Do you remember when I used to work on cars in the garage? Jack's voice softened slightly, revealing a flicker of nostalgia. It wasn't just fixing things, it was creating something out of nothing. That's what I want to do with my life. The mere mention of those formative years seemed to carve a fissure in his father's facade. For a fleeting second, Jack thought he could see a glimmer of interested acknowledgement, but then it was masked again by skepticism. You think you can succeed in a world designed for sharks? His father rebuffed, the contempt dripping from each word. You haven't even begun to taste the stakes. Every dismissal stung, yet it served only to fuel Jack's determination. For too long, he had let the fear of failure dictate his actions. This moment crystallized a vital truth. He was not simply going to drift like a paper boat in a storm. He would set his course. Success isn't just defined by profit margins and power, Jack countered, his voice rising in volume and conviction. It's about passion, fulfillment, and the impact I want to create. There was a weariness settling on his father's face, a palpable clash between his expectations and Jack's ambition. Jack seized this shift, feeling emboldened. I refuse to let your definition of success be the only one I consider. I am more than a reflection of your ideals. Moments stretched in silent suspension, the energy between them transforming from confrontational tension to a tenuous possibility for understanding. Jack's gaze flickered to Sarah momentarily, her expression exuding unwavering support. He could not allow this chance to escape, the door to a future he envisioned almost within his grasp. Dad, I know you think you're protecting me, Jack said, lowering his voice, more reflective now. But I need you to give me the space to make my own choices. I'm asking for the freedom to grow. His father's eyes narrowed again, calculating the implications of Jack's request. Jack felt the weight of his gaze like an anvil resting on his shoulders. But this was about transformation, the chipping away of old expectations that had suffocated him. Do you truly think you understand what it means to lead? His father asked, testing the resolve before him. I can learn, Jack replied, determination stealing within. I may not have all the answers, but I know I can find my way. And I want that learning to happen on my own terms. A flicker of uncertainty crossed his father's strong features, and Jack, sensing the wavering foundation of their confrontation, took a deep breath. The moment hung in the air, heavy with potential. Could you allow me the chance to prove that I can chart my own course? He ventured, willing the challenge to resonate not just with his father but with every part of himself. Behind that fear, a flicker of hope ignited a light illuminating potential realms he had yet to explore. As the silence stretched, Jack felt a swell of possibilities greeting him. He stood ready to embrace the unknown, ready to face whatever consequences would follow. But would his father allow it? Just as the tension threatened to crack open new dialogues, the gala suddenly erupted into applause for an honored guest being recognized on stage, a diversion that pulled their focus, teetering on the brink of recognition and acceptance. As Jack turned back to his father, he realized that the real test was afoot, one that could either forge a path to connection or send him spiraling further from acceptance. The future glimmered ahead, and the question lingered in the air: would he step into that light, or retreat into the shadows? The truth was coming, but could he bear it? Jack took a steadying breath, his chest heavy with both anticipation and residual fear. The applause faded into the background as he faced his father again, each second stretching unbearably. His heart pounded. He could either shrink back into compliance or lean into the challenge that lay before him, letting the echoes of his past give way to his future. Are you even listening to me? He pressed, breaking through the fog of celebration that filled the room. He needed his father to truly hear him, to understand that Jack was no longer the boy content with shadows. This isn't just a rebellion against you. It's a passionate pursuit of my own identity. His father's gaze darkened, eyes scanning the room as if searching for the words that would reinforce his authority. But Jack felt an unusual steadiness within him, a quiet confidence growing with every heartbeat. He was no longer paralyzed by the weight of expectations. The years spent sidestepping his father's ambitions had forged within him an indomitable spirit, one he was now eager to unleash. Building something from scratch, something real, requires more than just talent. It demands authenticity and perseverance. I've learned that through the years, Jack declared, the fire in his tone igniting a spark of curiosity in his father's eyes. The moment hardened, the air between them thrummed with unresolved tension. Jack pressed on, knowing he had small chances and choosing to capitalize on them. What if my success doesn't look like the one you envisioned? What if I take my passion for mechanics and translate that into a business that inspires others? His father leaned forward, the fervor in his expression shifting from derision to intrigue. if only slightly. What makes you think you won't fail? Jack wrestled with the fear that question dredged up. He had experienced the sting of failure too intimately, the way it had left him hollow in pursuit of his father's approval. Yet, now, he chose to confront that vulnerability head-on. Failure is part of the journey, he countered. It's where the real learning occurs. With each affirmation, Jack's unease began to morph into a palpable energy, compelling yet daunting. He felt as though he was shedding layers of self-doubt, bearing his raw ambition before the one who had shaped and shackled him for so long. In the midst of their standoff, Jack remembered the evening spent tinkering with motors, the whir of machinery echoing the rhythm of his aspirations. I could create a garage that doubles as a community space, workshops for kids, a place for mentoring, he stated, envisioning a dream alive with possibility. But then doubt intruded again like a dark cloud. He questioned whether his father understood his vision or would dismiss it as unnecessary idealism. Yet, in needing his father's acknowledgement, he was prepared to stand his ground. I know it won't be easy, but I also know I can't do it without your support. An unsettling quiet enveloped them. Jack's palms began to sweat, the uncertainty churning inside him. Would his father respect his ambition enough to set aside expectations? Jack desperately searched for reassurance in his father's expression, which flickered between disbelief and faint understanding. The applause echoed in the distance, but Jack was focused solely on the man before him, hoping to unravel the festering resentment and replace it with something new. Dad, I have to do this, not just for me but because I believe in something bigger than myself, Jack confessed, vulnerability creeping in. Can you trust me to find my path, even if it's different from what you imagined? His father remained still, contemplative. As Jack awaited an answer, the applause grew louder around them, a stark reminder of the world that continued to spin tirelessly, summarizing accomplishments he longed to carve for himself. Just then, a familiar figure caught Jack's eye, not Sarah, but his father's business partner, a woman strikingly confident and poised. Her presence shifted the atmosphere, a wave of recognition crossing Jack's mind as he recalled her. Sharp insights and innovative strategies in the office. Suddenly, the room filled with possibilities, a different layer unfolding. The sudden intrusion into their confrontation crystallized a thought. Was he overlooking the lessons he could learn from others, those who had forged their own paths despite giants in their way? As Jack observed her interact with guests, he felt a connection being drawn between personal growth and collaboration. His father glanced at the commotion and back at Jack, his expression fraught with internal conflict. This isn't just your chance, Jack. It's mine too. Our legacy stands on the line. As the reality of their entwined destinies settled heavily between them, Jack realized that unearthing his passion wasn't solely a rebellion. It was, instead, an invitation to redefine success collectively. But would his father embrace this emerging vision or choke it in the cradle? The moment hung suspended, tension electrifying the air. The potential for growth loomed large before them, but uncertainty still lingered at the periphery. Jack's pulse quickened. Could this be the moment he finally bridged the gap between their opposing worlds? Or would it splinter their relationship beyond repair? Jack's heart raced as he locked eyes with his father, the air pulsing with an amalgamation of hope and trepidation. The distance between them felt both expansive and constricting, one moment filled with promise, the next tinged with uncertainty. I need you to understand something, Jack said, voice steady yet tinged with urgency. This isn't about just me wanting to build something. I want to build a legacy, a place where kids can learn resilience, just like I did when I faced my own failures. He searched his father's face for signs of acknowledgement, ready to combat any flicker of objection. Instead, he saw a man caught in his own web of expectations, a complex mix of pride and doubt woven into his features. That was his father, one who sought perfection but often fell prey to fear of inadequacy. The poised woman from earlier re-entered Jack's mind, her confidence igniting an idea. Bravery had been the cornerstone of her success in their industry. Perhaps it could inspire his father. Look at what she's accomplished, Dad, he urged, gesturing subtly toward her. She didn't wait for permission. She built something on her own terms. Maybe there's strength in evolving together rather than apart. Jack's heart thudded as he planted the seed, both anxious and resolute. He wanted not only to carve out a path for himself but to help his father realize the potential in embracing change. Yet, a sliver of doubt persisted. Would his father resent being challenged? For a split second, Jack imagined their lives intertwined, separate journeys converging at the garage filled with laughter and engines, his father mentoring budding mechanics alongside him, both of them learning from each other's evolving visions. What if I fail? His tone softened, his voice almost a whisper as he momentarily peeled back his confident facade. What if people don't embrace this idea? What if I'm not cut out for the risk? Yet even as he voiced his fears, Jack knew they were not groundless. Every failure had left wounds, but they had also taught him invaluable lessons. This time, however, failure wouldn't be a reflection of his worth, it would be part of a greater journey. His ambition had shifted, an understanding that growth stems from vulnerability, not just from unbroken success. His father inhaled deeply, eyes narrowing in contemplation. You think you can inspire others? Really? Jack nodded, refusing to relent in the wake of this pivotal moment. I want to inspire them to harness their passion too. I grew up in your shadow, but now I want to create a place where others can dare to break out of their boxes, however daunting that may be. As silence enveloped them once more, a flicker of realization danced across his father's stoic gaze. Jack sensed the gradual shift building. Perhaps the familial walls were beginning to crumble bit by bit, revealing the fertile ground where hope could take root. Yet a thought tugged at him, unsettling and raw. If they diverged, how would he continue this journey without losing the connection he craved with his father? He couldn't ignore the implications. The fragility of their relationship weighed heavily on his shoulders. What if I fail and lose you in the process? He voiced, the admission feeling like a knife twisting within him. The idea of isolation nestled uncomfortably after having fought so hard to break free. His father opened his mouth, then closed it, wrestling with his own internal conflict. The tension in the air hung thick. Jack could feel every bit of it coiling around them, urging a resolution. Unbeknownst to Jack, the confident woman he had been admiring moments ago had turned away, the familiar glint of innovation sparking in her eyes as she glanced back at him. It prompted realizations. Collaboration was the heartbeat of progress, and inspiration could come not only from those above him but also from those walking alongside. Just then, his father's gaze flickered out toward the crowd, the applause now a distant murmur to them both. You understand the risks, he finally spoke, determination igniting in his tone. But do you understand what it means to navigate failure? It isn't just the fall, it's about standing back up. Jack saw it, a shadow of acceptance blooming behind his father's walls. But before he could respond, the woman turned, seamlessly entering the fray of the ongoing celebration, her voice ringing out loud enough for Jack to discern her latest triumph. Was it possible that she held the missing puzzle piece he needed to bridge the gap with his father? As the realization settled in, Jack felt his pulse quicken. Perhaps it was time to step beyond reservations, to confront not only his family's past but to unravel the intricate tapestry of partnerships that could redefine their futures. That he took a deep breath, ready to navigate these new pathways, when suddenly, a new question echoed in his mind as he absorbed the vibrant energy in the room. Could he harness this moment, collaborate with this unexpected ally, and learn how to navigate the uncharted waters of their respective experiences? Jack inhaled sharply, grounding himself in the moment. He had waited far too long for this opportunity, a chance to cultivate not only his future but that of others as well. The woman who had sparked his resolve danced amid the crowd, surrounded by admirers, and for a fleeting moment, he allowed himself to imagine approaching her. Surely, a conversation with her might yield insights. After all, she had transformed her passion into a thriving reality. But as Jack took a step forward, his father's voice echoed in his mind, a reminder of the weight that lay ahead. The uncertainty gnawed at him. Could he really challenge the status quo of his family legacy, and what did partnership even look like in this unfamiliar territory? Instead, he chose to focus on his father's presence. He had opened a door, albeit slightly, and Jack was determined to push through. Dad, he began, his tone imbued with newfound resolve, this venture isn't just about my desires. It's about us, about moving forward, together. I want to learn from you, and I want you to learn from me. It won't always be easy, but that's the beauty of it. Navigating failures is where the real growth happens. His father's fingers drummed nervously against his thigh, but his expression shifted from apprehension to contemplation. Jack could tell he was weighing some unvoiced thoughts, wrestling with his own expectations of what a father-son relationship should encompass. The fear of inadequacy that had so often clouded their conversations seemed momentarily eclipsed by a glimmer of hope. "Okay," his father finally said, voice steady yet deliberate. "But if we're going to do this, we need to communicate. If I'm to accept your ideas, I need you to be transparent about your plans." Jack nodded fiercely. "Absolutely. I want to hear your input. Your experience is invaluable to me. I'm not asking for permission, I'm asking for partnership." The words were liberating, as if shedding a burden that had stifled him for years. The overwhelming sense of connection began to replace the tension that had dominated their relationship. In this moment, Jack realized the importance of nurturing open dialogue. He would no longer shy away from seeking his father's wisdom, yet he also needed to establish his voice, carving a space for himself through authenticity. As the conversation deepened, he found himself recalling the confident woman. A partnership with her could amplify their efforts. Might she, too, share valuable insights? These thoughts churned, colliding with the burgeoning trust he felt with his father. "Dad," Jack ventured, gauging his father's openness, "what if I reached out to her? She's done extraordinary work, and she could provide a fresh perspective." His father's brow furrowed, the skepticism returning briefly. "And you think she'll just welcome you with open arms? There's a lot of competition in this world, son. What makes you think she'd want to collaborate with you?" Jack felt an old flicker of self-doubt resurface. He had faced rejection before, and the burn of past failures lingered. But he also understood now that every rejection was a stepping stone. The thought ignited a spark. "Because I believe in what I want to achieve. I think that passion speaks louder than competition. It's time to take risks, Dad. What's the worst that can happen?" His father's silence offered him a moment to cultivate courage. It was a risk to reach out, and the vulnerability weighed heavily, but the thought of doing nothing felt like a far worse fate. Jack took a deep breath, overcoming the encroaching apprehension that had threatened to hold him back. "I'm going to do it. I'm not waiting for her to come to me," he said, resolve cementing in his chest. His father, watching his son transform before him, offered a nod of hesitant approval. "I'll support you, but remember, no one is going to hand you anything. You have to prove yourself." With that affirmation, Jack felt a surge of determination coursing through him. If he would embark on this journey, he needed to reconnect with not only his family's past but also the world beyond their understandings. Just as he was about to suggest a plan to engage the woman, a commotion erupted from across the venue. Voices rose, and a ripple of curious energy spread through the crowd. Jack turned, uncertainty flooding back as he caught glimpses of surprise and tension. What had shifted so suddenly? He felt the familiar tug of apprehension knotting his stomach. This was not the moment for distractions. He had work to do, connections to forge, and fears to confront. As he stepped forward, a bold thought crossed his mind. What if this commotion opened a doorway to unexpected opportunities, or even disrupted everything he was trying to build? The sudden disruption jolted the atmosphere, and Jack's heart raced as the crowd surged and murmured in confusion. This was not how he envisioned the night unfolding. He had been ready to step into his power, to take control of his destiny, and yet here he was, entranced by the disarray around him. He strained to hear snippets of the commotion, a cacophony blending urgency with disbelief. People pointed toward a raised platform at the far end of the room, and the mix of intrigue and anxiety tore through him. As much as he tried to remain focused on his goal, the organic pull of the chaos wrestled with his carefully constructed resolve. "What do you think is happening?" he asked his father, suddenly aware that he had paused in their conversation. "Let's check it out," his dad replied, a twinkle of curiosity igniting between them. Jack hesitated for a moment, sensing the shift from motive to distraction. But in a world that echoed with uncertainty, perhaps this twist could provide the unexpected answers he needed. As they moved closer, the masses began to part, revealing a stage adorned in vibrant colors and an oversized banner reading "Future Leaders Initiative." He felt an electric charge as they approached, aware that this moment, regardless of its unpredictability, could rekindle the vital conversation about his aspirations. A woman stood at the center, commanding attention, her presence unmistakable. With flowing dark hair and piercing blue eyes, she radiated strength, a magnetic aura enveloping her. Suddenly, recognition slammed into him. This was the woman he had been contemplating approaching, the very embodiment of success in the entrepreneurial landscape he admired. Regardless of the circumstances, Jack felt the pull to connect, to learn directly from her. The anxiety brewing within him shifted unexpectedly to excitement. The potential for a transformative discussion loomed just a few steps away. He motioned toward her to his father, who seemed surprisingly supportive, nodding in encouragement. As she spoke into the microphone, her voice echoed confidence mixed with vulnerability. She discussed challenges in her industry, the obstacles she faced as a leader navigating a competitive environment, and the importance of collaboration over competition. Jack's heart raced as he absorbed her words, reminded that every battle was filled with lessons waiting to be uncovered. "Dad, I need to talk to her," Jack said, the urgency reshaping his initial hesitation. Yet, before he could execute his plan, the atmosphere shifted dramatically. Without warning, a figure emerged from the crowd, a man sporting an authoritative demeanor, shouting for calm. Jack's breath hitched. The authority he once felt so proud to inherit now seemed painfully distant as this stranger disrupted the electric energy. "Everyone, please listen," the man exclaimed, the authority in his voice cutting through the low roars of confusion. "We have an issue, and we need everyone's cooperation." As whispers escalated among the attendees, Jack's thoughts spiraled into turmoil. This was a moment veering away from his carefully curated path toward collaboration. Instead, uncertainties about loyalties and desires began to surface. He felt as if he were oscillating between opportunities and looming threats, the stakes fluctuating at every turn. "Is this it?" he mused internally. "Am I about to lose everything?" His father's reassuring hand on his shoulder reminded him that together they could navigate the storm. There was clarity in that thought, grounding him in the shifting landscape around them. He turned back, his gaze steadying on the woman, who still radiated calm despite the chaos unfolding before her. Jack took a step forward, the determination reforming like steel around his heart. "What if I seize this moment?" he asked himself, his mind racing at the possibilities. There was a lesson in this, a chance to redefine both his approach to partnership and how he faced challenges head-on, but before he could act, the situation intensified, and a sudden revelation gripped him. He might not only have to confront his fears but compete for attention and authenticity amid the climactic turmoil. As the chaos unfolded, Jack felt a burgeoning realization. What if this was not merely a distraction but the crucible through which he would forge his path to connection? He took a deep breath, feeling the stakes rise. It was now or never. In the distance, the woman met his gaze, and in that split second, Jack knew he had to take a leap of faith toward the unknown or risk losing everything he had dared to build. Just as he made up his mind to approach her, the authoritative man turned his attention directly toward Jack, an unexpected challenge lingering in his eyes. "Why don't you step forward and share your thoughts?" he called out, his voice piercing through the growing tension. Caught off guard, Jack stared into the crowd, the weight of expectations and unspoken judgments crashing down on him. This was no longer just about ambition. It had become a true test of who he was ready to become. Jack stood, paralyzed under the weight of the authoritative figure's gaze. The crowd shifted and swayed, an ocean of faces, all waiting for him to make a move. He felt his heart thudding against his ribcage with each passing second, the rhythm echoing his internal struggle. How could he pour forth his thoughts when every ounce of his confidence felt stripped away? Yet this challenge was a summons, a call to redefine his relationship with fear and ambition. The spotlight's heat pressed down on him, intensifying the fire of self-doubt. This wasn't merely a presentation, it was an opportunity to assert his identity in the business realm, a realm teetering on the brink of chaos. What could I possibly say? He questioned, the internal dialogue raging within. What do I know that could command attention? But then Jack recalled the woman on stage, the one who had exuded resilience amid uncertainty. Her journey was painted with struggles that shaped her into an inspirational figure. He had reservations, but they didn't outweigh the possibilities. This moment could be a declaration of his intent not only to lead but to connect authentically, utilizing vulnerability as a strength rather than a weakness. Mustering courage, Jack took a tentative step forward, echoing the unsteady approach of a tightrope walker. The authoritative man regarded him with sharp eyes, but Jack was more focused on the crowd's breathless anticipation. He couldn't afford to cower. It's about taking that leap, isn't it? He reminded himself, clearing his throat, a small act but filled with intent. Jack finally spoke. I believe we all come to moments like these where we find ourselves drifting, unsure of our path forward. In times of uncertainty, we can either retreat or step boldly into the unknown. As his voice gained momentum, he felt the crowd lean in, the collective energy shifting. We need to collaborate, not just as competitors but as individuals with shared aspirations. For every ounce of imposter syndrome that had prevailed in his psyche, there emerged sparks of self-assurance. He spoke about navigating through uncertainty, drawing insights from failure, and the necessity of transparency in every partnership. Ideas tumbled forth, a distillation of hopes and realizations keenly gathered through personal battle. Success isn't about a single victory, it's about creating a web of leaders who uplift each other, he conveyed, aware that each word was a brushstroke painting his presence for the audience. As he finished, Jack searched the faces before him. For a brief second, time stood still as a murmur rippled through the crowd. Had he made an impact? Had his voice carved out a niche in the cacophony that felt so overwhelming moments ago? Turning back to where the woman had stood, he met her gaze. Her eyes sparkled with a blend of recognition and surprise, emotions flickering across her face. Had he truly managed to reach her amidst the fray? The authoritative man's features relaxed, almost imperceptibly, a sign perhaps of approval. Jack's heart soared, a tenuous thread of affirmation. But this was only the beginning. With every moment that passed, the realization struck that he had more to confront. The crowd was a reflection of the trials he faced in his journey toward his ambitions. Even as the tension eased momentarily, shadows of doubt lurked nearby. Jack felt the flicker of a challenge, not just in the authoritative figure who remained a silent sentinel, but in the fragments of his own identity as an emerging leader. How would he channel this moment into actionable insights? The next step was crucial. There was no time to dwell on the victory at hand. Instead, he was teetering on the precipice of a crucial decision that could redefine what he intended for his future, what awaited him beyond this pivotal moment. Jack turned to the crowd, ready to embrace the next chapter of his journey, as he saw an unmistakable shimmer of opportunity unfold. He had ignited something, but now he needed to fuel it with conviction and strategy, the true essence of leadership laid bare. Let us continue this conversation, he declared, adrenaline coursing through him as he sensed the shift in atmosphere. With a newfound vigor, he mulled the possibility that perhaps they could refine this chaotic brilliance into something lasting. Yet just as he contemplated what to do next, an unexpected voice rang out amidst the applause, commanding silence once again. Before we proceed, the man interjected, his demeanor now adorned with cryptic amusement, let us address the challenge that lies on the horizon. You sparked something here, but can you sustain it? Jack's pulse quickened as he recognized the challenge laid before him. The real test of his convictions was yet to come. Jack stood at the nexus of possibility and uncertainty, where his transformation coalesced into something tangible. As applause erupted around him, a sense of purpose surged within. This was not merely an echo of his ambitions, it was a foundational moment that defined who he had become and who he aspired to be. He had faced his father and the expectations that had long loomed over him. That confrontation had shifted something fundamental within him. By daring to articulate his aspirations, Jack had broken the chains of a predetermined identity, reclaiming the narrative of his life. No longer was he just the mechanic in grease-stained overalls, he was a man with a vision, poised to craft a unique path of his own. In the moments following his speech, Jack witnessed a ripple of recognition from the crowd, including a subtle nod from his father. It was fleeting, but it carried the weight of acknowledgement. He could feel the transformation, not just in himself but resonating outward, reverberating into his surroundings. The barriers that had once separated him from his father were beginning to dissolve, replaced by a newly formed bond born from mutual respect and understanding. As the applause melded into conversation, Jack glimpsed Sarah across the room. Her radiant smile ignited a spark of assurance, reinforcing the notion that he was not alone in this journey. They had both wrestled with their struggles, learning not only about resilience but also about partnering through challenges. He sought her presence, wishing to share this triumph with her, a testament of growth they might build together. He walked toward her, each step echoing the conviction lodged deep in his heart. "Sarah," he began, confidence lifting his tone. "This is just the beginning, right? We can create something meaningful." Her eyes sparkled with enthusiasm, offering an embrace of encouragement. "Absolutely, Jack. This is only the first step toward defining our paths together." They exchanged ideas of sustainability through collaboration, transforming their respective dreams into a shared endeavor. With each passing moment, Jack felt the assurance of his evolving identity solidifying. His past shaped who he was, but it would no longer dictate his future. This revelation manifested a crucial turning point. He would embrace failure as a stepping stone rather than an endpoint. The metamorphosis he experienced allowed him to redefine not just success but also how he would inspire others to navigate their obstacles. Emboldened by his commitment to authenticity, Jack initiated a dialogue with the confident woman whose earlier speech had so moved him. "I'm eager to discuss partnerships. Your insights on collaboration were powerful," he stated, driven by his newfound assertion. Her face brightened, excitement bubbling in her response. "Let us explore how we can align our strengths. It's vital to uplift one another in a competitive world." Her words resonated with him, a validation that his determination could indeed sow the seeds of collaboration. With renewed energy, Jack turned back to his father, who had been silently observing this unfolding narrative. "Dad, I really want your support in this. Let us create a legacy that embraces innovation, collaboration, and mentorship." Their eyes locked, and for a fleeting moment, Jack saw walls crumble, the potential for understanding burgeoning where resentment had once festered. "I'm willing to listen. If you want to build that space and foster community, let us chart a path together," his father conceded, a note of tentative optimism lacing his tone. Jack felt an overwhelming sense of fulfillment. He had not only faced his fears but had transformed them into opportunities for growth. Each interaction, each dialogue cemented the personal achievement he sought, reflecting a tangible realization of his aspirations. Jack was no longer a cog in the wheel of family expectations. He was defining his own legacy. As the night deepened, amidst the vibrant discussions of shared ambitions, Jack embraced a profound truth. His journey was a mosaic of collaborative efforts that drew strength from vulnerability. He had cultivated a powerful capacity for authentic connection, illustrating a vision that was distinctly his own. The fireworks of the evening began to illuminate the sky outside, casting whimsical shadows across the room. In that moment of joyous celebration, Jack understood the essence of personal achievement. It was the culmination of individual struggles, newfound partnerships, and the wisdom gained in overcoming adversity. He had truly transformed, embodying both resilience and leadership, ready to step into a world where he could inspire others through authentic collaboration. A sense of peace settled within him, confirming that he had not just confronted his past, he had emerged from it, ready to carve a future that blended his ambitions with those around him. As Jack reflected on the journey ahead, he recognized that the true measure of achievement came not just in the accolades one garnered but in the hearts they touched along the way. This is your moment to rise with Jack. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss more exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to ensure health for the algorithm and to feed the narrative of transformation. Comment below with your thoughts and theories about this powerful conclusion. Share this inspirational video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this journey of personal growth and triumph. Don't wait even one more second to be part of this community of true fans of personal overcoming stories.